They thought it would be just another fishing trip. It turned into a battle against the ocean itself. No one expected the sky to split open. No one imagined a raft would become a coffin. Sharks circled. Storms returned. And then the hallucinations began. But the real nightmare? What didn't happen? Stick around, because these survivors didn't escape unscathed. And neither will you. It began with a jolt that shook the ocean like thunder cracking open the sky. On November 17th, 2012, a deep-sea fishing charter named the Eclipse set off from Cairns, Australia. Among the crew were 6 individuals, including 36-year-old Travis Jordan, a seasoned fisherman and former marine engineer. The ocean was calm when they left the dock, no hint of the storm that would come clawing at them before sunset. They were halfway into the Coral Sea when radio signals went dead. The equipment stopped responding. The boat, as reliable as it was known to be, trembled. The winds had turned, and within minutes, a typhoon that hadn't been forecast descended upon the vessel like a demon awakened. The waves rose as high as buildings. The sea swallowed light and replaced it with howling darkness. The crew scrambled to secure their gear, but the Eclipse began to tip unnaturally to the starboard. Travis Jordan screamed to abandon ship just as a colossal wave flipped the boat sideways. All 6 crew members were hurled into the open sea, battered, bruised, disoriented, and stripped of every illusion of safety. Their only lifeline was a partially inflated emergency raft that had automatically deployed as the vessel capsized. 4 of the crew managed to climb onto it, including Travis. 2 others, Brian Matthews and Leroy Nweek, were swept away, their screams dissolving into the roar of the storm. There was nothing the others could do but hold on. The sea didn't care that they were skilled. The sea didn't care that they had families. It just wanted to consume. By daybreak, the ocean had calmed, but their horror had just begun. The raft had taken them miles away from their original location, and their communication devices had gone under with the boat. There was no food, no fresh water, no shade, just an endless blue, the scent of salt, and the stinging sun. On day 2, the salt began to burn their skin raw. Lips cracked and bled. Their mouths begged for water, and their bodies betrayed them with hallucinations. One of the men, Russell Phelps, began mumbling to himself. He said he saw land, fields of green grass just behind the clouds. He dove headfirst into the water, arms outstretched like a swimmer chasing the edge of a dream. The others screamed, pleaded, but Russell was gone within seconds. A shadow moved under the water. It circled once, and then blood bloomed like ink and water. The remaining 3 didn't speak for hours. No one cried. No one prayed. They knew they'd all seen what took Russell. A shark, massive and merciless, had made the raft its hunting ground. On the 3rd night, lightning cracked above them, and Travis Jordan whispered to himself. He had a wife, 2 daughters. He couldn't die like this, so he did something unthinkable. He took his belt, bit it between his teeth, and sliced open his arm using the edge of a broken emergency compass. He dripped the blood into a bottle cap, let it settle, and began to filter it using cotton stuffing from a damaged life vest. He read somewhere once that blood could be filtered if the plasma was separated. He didn't know if it was true, but at that moment, he believed anything that gave him a reason to try. The next morning, another man, Ethan Lumumba, had grown delirious and tried to swim downward, claiming he could see the ocean floor's lights. Travis tackled him back into the raft. Ethan sobbed, shaking and clawing at his own skin. The sun was peeling them alive. Their bodies were surrendering one cell at a time. The storm returned that evening with no warning. Just lightning, gale-force winds, and a rage that split the sky in half. Their raft flipped again. Travis managed to cling on. Ethan and the last crew member, Jamal Winters, did not. When the raft flipped back upright after the winds settled, he called their names for hours. Nothing answered except the sea. Travis Jordan was alone. 5 souls gone. His face blistered and burned. His eyes swollen. He tried to drink rainwater that pooled inside the raft, but ended up vomiting it back. His hope, like his strength, was thinning. He wrapped himself in the rubber flaps of the raft and waited for death. On the 6th day, he woke up to buzzing, a faint droning in the sky. His eyes opened like rusted shutters. He waved a torn red shirt, flailing it like a flag of the forgotten. The sound got louder. A rescue chopper, patrolling a nearby oil route, spotted a flare reflection in the sea, something that wasn't supposed to be there. They found Travis unconscious, his heartbeat shallow, his body covered in second-degree burns. He was airlifted to Cairns Base Hospital. The doctors said he shouldn't have survived. He had lost 30 pounds in a week. He never went back to the sea. He never even walked along the beach again. But he told his story, quietly, painfully, and only when people were ready to hear how real horror wears no mask. Years before that, in the freezing waters of the Bering Sea, another story of survival clawed its way into history. In January 2001, the Harmony's Drift, a small Alaskan crab fishing vessel, went down during a freak collision with an iceberg 170 miles west of St. Paul Island. Only one man made it out of the cabin alive, Michael Sutherland, a 29-year-old deckhand, known more for his bar fights than for his seamanship. The boat hit ice hard, crumpling inward like a soda can. The alarms didn't even get a chance to sound before the ocean tore it in half. Michael was below deck when it happened, asleep. He woke up drowning. His lungs screamed. He punched upward, broke through a ceiling hatch, and emerged into the freezing night, his breath taken by a slap of minus 15-degree wind. He found a single life ring, just one. He held on to it like it was his last thread of humanity. The ocean was black. The stars above shimmered like a cruel reminder that someone might be watching but wouldn't help. The current dragged him for hours. The cold numbed his pain, but whispered death in every wave. He saw nothing for 10 hours, not even birds. Then came the wolves. No one calls them that officially, but fishermen in Alaska know them. The slick, gray dorsal fins of life-taker whales that follow wrecks like vultures in the sky. Michael saw 3, then 4, then a dozen. They circled him. Curiously, hungrily, he screamed at them, cursed. One brushed past his leg like it was measuring him. Then another bumped his life ring. He closed his eyes and waited, but they didn't harm. They simply circled him. For hours, like judges at a trial, deciding whether or not he was worth the unalive. One of them swam off. The others followed. And just like that, they vanished into the deep. By hour 15, hypothermia had begun its final countdown. Michael Sutherland drifted in and out of lucidity. He saw his brother, standing on the water, calling him home. He saw a lighthouse that didn't exist. But the thing that jolted him awake was the sound of rotors. Real ones. A Coast Guard helicopter had spotted something bobbing in the water during a routine search. They weren't even looking for survivors, just debris. They pulled him out, barely alive. His right foot had to be amputated from frostbite. He never fished again. He opened a bookstore in Anchorage. When asked about what saved him, he didn't say it was the Coast Guard. He didn't say it was luck. He said it was the life-taker whales, because, in his words, they chose mercy. The line between life and death is often just the will to keep treading water when your mind screams to let go. Few stories embody that as hauntingly as the tale of 18-year-old Jasmine Liu, a high school graduate who embarked on a solo backpacking trip through Patagonia in July 2015. She vanished 3 days into her hike near Torres del Paine National Park. A sudden snowstorm buried the trails. Visibility dropped to 0. Jasmine, trying to find shelter, slid off a ridge and plunged 20 feet into a rocky gully. breaking her left femur and dislocating her shoulder. Her phone shattered, her locator beacon failed, and with each falling snowflake, she disappeared deeper into the white. She didn't move for the first 12 hours. Screaming was useless. Her leg was twisted, her arm limp. Wolves howled in the distance. She chewed on snow. She tried to stay awake, and she remembered everything her father had told her about surviving. Never lie flat in the cold. Never fall asleep. Breathe into your jacket. Sing, even if it hurts. So she sang, through sobs, through screams, through frozen lips. On day 2, a fox came by and stared at her for hours. It didn't approach, just watched. Then it left, and that somehow made it worse. On the 3rd night, she hallucinated a rescue team. She waved at them, called out. No one replied, but she kept waving, just in case they were real. On day 5, her body began shutting down. Her skin took on a pale hue. Her voice was gone. And then, just before she passed out for what she thought was the final time, she heard shouting. Real shouting. Spanish. Flashlights. Barking dogs. A rescue team. Finally able to fly, and now that the storm had cleared, had spotted fabric from her torn jacket. Jasmine Liu was pulled out of the snow after 121 hours of exposure. Her leg was rebuilt with titanium rods. Her shoulder was never the same, but she returned to Patagonia 2 years later and finished her hike alone because she said she had to walk past the place where death gave her back. These are not just stories of survival. They are confessions from the edge. They are truths whispered through clenched teeth, and they remind us that sometimes the monsters aren't imaginary. They're waves, storms, shadows in the deep, and silence. The ocean doesn't hate you, but it doesn't love you either. And if it ever speaks your name, you better hope it lets you go. What do you think keeps a person alive when the sea tries to erase them? Was it instinct? Luck? Something watching from the deep? Travis Jordan, Michael Sutherland, Jasmine Liu, they all looked death in the eye. And, for reasons we may never understand, it blinked first. Would you have survived? Would you have made the same choices? Let's talk in the comments. And if stories like these make your heart race, your skin crawl, and your thoughts linger long after the screen fades to black, subscribe, because the next wave of true survival is already coming.